measuring outcomes and community impact. I'd like to welcome Aparna Gazula, a small farms advisor in Santa Clara, San Benito, and Santa Cruz. Thank you, Aparna. And Aparna has a unique experience in that she has 2 land grant systems that she can draw her experiences from. So University of California and University of Florida, if I remember correctly. Welcome, Aparna.
Can everyone hear me okay? All right, so today I'll be talking about my approach to measuring outcomes and communicating impact. The way I look at it is the first thing that you're thinking about when communicating impact is your dossier or your merit and promotion packets that you're submitting. And I've used that as my approach to gathering information that will then inform what impacts is my work having. So just to give you an idea, these are my themes. I've listed my clientele there, but just so you're aware, the majority of my clientele are small scale, socially diversified and socially disadvantaged growers. And they speak multiple languages, predominantly Chinese in one of the counties, but we also have a large group of Hispanics growers that speak Spanish, Vietnamese, Thai, you name it. It's a wide gamut of growers that I work with. And so I'll go over some of the work that I've done and how I've gathered impact statements or the impact that my work is having with these communities. So when it comes to measuring outcomes, as you get started in your programs, we all offer workshops or trainings, and it may be of different types or formats. In this picture here, you have a field day where we were putting together a train-the-trainer type of activity for people that are working directly with growers, irrigators on their irrigation systems, and to better have information about how to improve the overall efficiency or the performance of an irrigation system. And so we put together this training in Salinas. And so you can see all of us are around some drip tape, and there's other pictures that I have that we're around flow meters and things. So when you offer these workshops, one of the common things that you can use as a resource to gather information about what is the value of that training, right? So the one common thing is increase or gain in knowledge about a particular topic. So irrespective of what field you're in, the workshop you're presenting, there is an inherent hope that the people that are attending your workshop are going to learn something new. So that's one of the key things to look into when you put together an evaluation is ask some questions about, hey, did you learn something about this particular topic? And it can be in multiple forms. So this particular one, and Catherine and Vikram are going to go over the details about the different types of evaluation tools you can use. And so this is from my work when I was working in Florida. I worked there for 7 years, and this is my 10th year here with UC Cooperative Extension. So as part of a bigger team, we gave the same set of questions, both pre and post, and looked at the number of correct answers they got for the pre and the post, and then, gauged what the total knowledge gain was on an individual level. So this is a short-term way to measure impact. So knowledge gain is a short-term activity that you're trying to see whether they improved their knowledge or not. You can do this in another way too, where you administer an evaluation survey at the end of your workshop, and it's called a post-pre, and you can ask the topic in the middle, have the topic in the middle. So maybe cover cropping, right? Did you increase your knowledge today about cover cropping? You do you give the survey at the end, but then say at the beginning I knew this much, and at the end of the workshop my level of understanding about this topic was 5. Maybe at the beginning it was like a 3, right? And so you can still see if there was some increase in their knowledge. The other thing that I've also started to do when I have these evaluation surveys for my workshops is I add questions about intent to change. So these are your attitudes, skills related to certain topics. So is this a topic or a practice that you're open to adopting on your farm? They may say yes or no, and that's, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. At least they're showing an intent to adopt a certain practice. So that's another way I try to gauge how the information that I presented is going to be used or not. So another way that you can, again, we do a lot of surveys, so there is some, concern if you don't want to have too many questions, but you can condense that to one page. And then one of the key things you can also ask is, hey, what type of information are you looking for in future workshops? Or, what type of resources are you looking for? For example, with the community of growers that I work with, one of the questions we recently asked them is, how many of you were impacted by the recent storm events? Because we provide technical assistance around supporting growers to be able to access CDFA funds for damages related to weather events and things of that nature. And so that then can help me figure out how many growers in the region needs technical assistance. So make your evaluation surveys tailored to what you're trying to do with your outreach work or other work that you do in the community. And this, again, Vikram will go over this. They're called the short-term and potential medium-term change that you can observe. Like I mentioned, I worked with very diverse communities. Stephen talked about this too. You want to be able to present the information in a language that they understand. This can take time, especially if you're building a new program in your area. So look for those grant opportunities at the state level. I've been luckily successful with the state grants, I would say, and more the regional ones or within your county. Sometimes there are funds available where they support your work. I have been able to get some funding to hire people that are fluent in Chinese. And so we have offered workshops in Chinese and developed surveys in Chinese so that, again, this is in their language, they're comfortable in and gathering data based upon the workshops or trainings that they're attending. So this is in a classroom setting or a field setting, and then there's going to be other ways that you can monitor change happening. Oftentimes we're out conducting farm visits or meeting with range or other types of your clientele groups, and you actually see practices being implemented when you're there. Sometimes you notice this in conversations too. So one of the things around the pandemic time is there weren't a lot of resources in Chinese for farmers in our region. And so one of the things that we did is we translated some of the key resources about social distancing, especially when it comes to farm workers or, who all you have labor on your farm. And so we shared that with growers, and they actually posted them on the farm. And the next time we were there, we saw this and took pictures. And so this way we can capture that by observation, that they're adopting the information that we shared with them. So this is another observation type of an activity. So as a small farms advisor, my role is very broad. It's not just crop production or pest management or irrigation and nutrient management, but I also provide a lot of education, outreach information, and technical assistance around food safety. So this particular picture, you see, this is a family. They're packing a vegetable into the produce boxes, which is going to get shipped. But as all of you can see, they put them directly onto the ground. And so this observation is also a good way for me to identify what key resources do I need to develop that around educational information, right? So for example, what I learned is that growers in general were following this practice. So we started putting together fact sheets about how to manage produce boxes when you're field packing. And we shared that with them. And the next time we were at farms, we noticed that they actually implemented that practice. And instead of directly putting the produce boxes directly on the ground, they had them off the ground. They may use a pallet or another box, but they were adopting those practices that we had shared with them. So now you're starting to make observations about behavior change, which can be medium to maybe longer term change. Another thing you can also do is try to measure the number of times that you've made these observations. So if, let's say, 20 or 30 individuals attended your workshop on a particular practice, and you saw that 5 of them had adopted this practice, then you can then put that information in your dossier when you submit it for your evaluation purposes. So collecting quantitative data about that. Like I mentioned, my role is very broad. I work on irrigated lands regulatory program compliance work. And because of the work that I've done there, it's offered me opportunities to do some research that has been incorporated into the reporting tools by the Regional Water Quality Board and also our what we would call our local coalition. But at the same time, because of my work with the communities that this compliance is targeting, I have been able to provide feedback to both the policy or decision makers at the regional and state level, but also to my coalition about what needs to happen in terms of the compliance and availability of information to the communities that they're trying to assist with the compliance portion of some regulations. And so there I provided comment on new regulation language during the comment period. Ruth and I, my colleague, we wrote and submitted a white paper that was then very instrumental, especially for the San Joaquin Valley area, to come up with modified reporting requirements for small-scale growers there. And so there is a lot of value to the work you're doing. Oftentimes, it's hard to document it. So one of the ways that I try to do it is anytime you put it on your calendar, now I have color codes for it. So I can always go back and look at what I did. And so I have a particular color for if it's professional competence, and then I can go reevaluate it and read through the title of it and say, oh, this is what I did here. Okay, I need to put it for this particular aspect in my dossier. So put those breadcrumbs for yourself, when you're working on things, so you know how to go find that information. Because a year later, it's going to be a lot harder to find that information. But if you put it on your calendar or some other form that helps you to then go back and gather this information, then you're being very effective in your reporting. So by providing comment or serving on panels, stakeholder committees, you are serving your professional capacity, right? You're doing some good work there. All right, so this is next is about the communicating your impact. So the reason I wanted to show this picture is what you see up there, those pipes. These are greenhouse systems that used to be used for growing cut flowers. Very old systems, more than 30 years old. And a lot of the growers that are using them, they lease the land. And again, those of you that work in agriculture, irrigation systems are expensive. Modifying them or replacing them can get very expensive. So one of the key work that my team and we do is we provide technical assistance for growers to apply for the CDFA sweep funding, where you can improve the overall energy and water use efficiency of irrigation systems. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I always try to tie in the work that I do with my teams or my clientele, and more so with the public values and condition changes. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. My slides will be available for you to peruse later on. So the approach that I've taken, and both Davey and Steve and Lynn have talked about this, is rather than try to come up with statements, I've used the information that's already available and adopted that to the work that I'm doing. So I have identified key public value statements and condition changes that my work fits under. And so when you have a PRC committee that's looking at this, then they can relate to that because they are reading the same thing that ANR is publishing on an annual basis. So I use that approach for putting my dossier together. And so they have statewide statements there for certain topics within our old, we will have probably newer condition change and statements related to the new statewide map that we're coming up with. But I used those statements but modified them for local context and talked about what this work means for where I am in my region. And like several before me have mentioned, make use of the resources that you have. And I've been fortunate to have attended professional development training opportunities, both in University of Florida and here with the UC system, about how to evaluate your programs, how to measure impacts or change. And Vikram and Catherine's group, they've done a fantastic job with that. And they also share a lot of resources on these topics. So, you don't have to start from scratch. So you can start somewhere as you build your programs. And so this is the example. The links may be different, or the way it's presented in the future is going to be different with our 2040 roadmap. But those are my resources. I go there to look at how my peers are presenting their outcomes and impacts. Because again, I'm not an expert in this, and I use the resources that are available to me to develop ways to measure my outcomes and impacts and present those observations. So talking particularly about the SWEEP technical assistance work that we've done. So we've done the survey post. So when they attend our workshops, one of the key things we're asking them is, hey, did you increase your knowledge about these SWEEP grants? Is this something you're interested in applying to? If you want to apply to these grants, share your contact information so we can get in touch with you and help you in this process. And so that then helps us to figure out who the interested growers are, go look at their irrigation system, and provide guidance to them with the application process. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is, like I said earlier, irrigation systems are expensive. And if you especially have older systems with a lot of inefficiencies, asking a grower to change their system and make it more efficient is not going to be always effective. But if you go to them with these grant funds and share, hey, by the way, do you want to test this out? Or one of the things we do is ask them to go with different types of nozzles, for example. But we show them their nozzle type and some recommendations that we have, do a demonstration so they can see how it works, and then maybe they're open to adopting that. And so by the end of providing this technical assistance, they have more efficient irrigation systems, and as a result of those irrigation efficiencies, they're saving water, and their energy use has decreased. And I'm able to document that in amount of carbon dioxide, and there now you're talking about impact. So I've done this over the years, and so now I can say that we brought this much amount of money into the grower communities that I work with. This is the number of cars that we took off the road. This is the number of swimming pools of water that we saved. So it's relatable to the people that you're reporting this information to. Again, so use resources, right? Excel sheets. We're all good at Excel sheets, so start gathering some of that data. There's going to be other outcomes and impacts, and I've talked about this a little bit, like the policy and decision-making part of it. But the bigger things that I feel are not as tangible is I've been able to build trust with the communities that I work with. Again, these are underserved communities that didn't have access to information because it was in a language that wasn't accessible to them. So by bringing resources to them and in information that is more accessible, they now have realized that we are there to provide key information, research-based information, and to really support them in having a thriving agricultural operation. So they're more open to coming to me to talk with my team about some of the concerns they have, but they're also open to putting up with all my instrumentation and open to me doing research trials on their farms. And so that's not a fun thing to look at, especially if you have wires running down the blocks. And so it builds trust with the communities that you work with, and they're more open to working with you going forward as well. So again, some of these might change depending upon what the roadmap is for the next 10 years, but these are my key go-to resources as I put together my dossier or my impact stories. But like I said, there's tons of annually Kit and the program evaluation team, they take the data that you put into Project Board and put out a fantastic list of outcomes and impacts that A&R has, use that as a guide as well. So again, these are some of the ones that I have used. All right, any questions? Yes?
I have a question regarding your surveys and how you translated them to different languages. Are those templates accessible to other advisors that may be running into the same issues so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel?
Happy to. So if you need any of my surveys, they're not something exceptional. You know, they're just like, I have a topic that I want to know, did you gain some information from the presentation that I just put together? And so happy to share those.
Right, but let's say I didn't attend this meeting, I didn't know about it. There's no access from A&R to be able to, like a box, to be able to get those templates.
Vikram's group, along with Catherine Webb-Martinez, they put together workshops on program evaluation, and they share a lot of resources similar to what I shared today. But you know, in the agenda, my name is there. So just email me and say, hey, Aparna, send me your files, and I'll be happy to share them. Yeah. Yeah, it's not proprietary or anything, you know, like I got it from somebody else, right? So happy to share, yeah.
I just want to go back to Aparna's last slide. You know, use the resources that are available to you. Don't reinvent the wheel. The answers are out there to help you build your roadmap. Make it easy on yourself, make it easy on your clientele, make it easy on your evaluators, so they're not trying to figure out what it is that you're doing. You've got several resources there for your roadmap. And I especially like your comment about the various ways that you can gather data to write your impacts. It doesn't always have to be a survey, right? You can do observational data. You can take a look at outcome impact data from your research and things like that. So the answers are there. So don't stress too much about it.
Yeah, I would add to that another great resource about communicating impact is take a look at PR dossiers. So a lot of examples are posted on Academic HR webpage, and you'll see great example how folks communicate outcomes and anticipated and manifested impacts. So take a look at those examples as well.
One quick note I'll make is that for certain practices, so for example, adopting cover cropping, right? And so there are various benefits to that practice. You may not have done the research about what that benefit of that practice is, but go look in your databases and see if there's other institutional work that's been done on that topic and what some of the key benefits are. There may be some economic numbers that are out there, or like soil health and other practice benefits. And so what you could do is put that reference in your merit and promotion or dossier, and then say that based on this is the potential impact of my work.
I think that's a really great point. So even if you're not at a point of having solid, definitive impacts, you can talk about the roadmap that you're on, right? That by doing this work, we hope to contribute to X, as cited by X, in doing these kinds of things. So you can talk about what the potential will be as well. Thank you, Aparna. Great.